Welcome back. I am John P. Today we are going to be talking about a watch just released from Tudor in the Watches and Wonders 2022. This is a watch that I think is going to scratch the itch of so many Tudor watch collectors. This is the Tudor Black Bay Pro. Now, at first glance, what does this watch look like? This looks like the Rolex 1655, right? The Rolex 1655, the old Steve McQueen Explorer, right? The watch that is clearly modeled after. This is clearly supposed to be that watch. Now you'll notice some differences, right? If the seconds hand is not the lollipop here, and of course we also have these snowflake hands on the Tudor watch. But other than that, you have the 24-hour fixed bezel. You have the overall similar case size and shape, right? This is a 39mm Tudor watch, just considering how Tudor handles the lugs and thicker cases to kind of compensate for the newer Tudor movement, the MT5652, the 70-hour power reserve movement, whereas vintage Rolex was going to be a much more slim watch compared to this. Of course, it's a GMT watch in addition to being water resistant. Now, I get it. I get why this is produced, right? There is this looking back component to watches today. People like to draw from the past to re-inspire and come out with new things currently, right? You see it from everything from movies with all the superheroes and the comic book movies and things like that. And you see it in design cues. You see it in a lot of colorways that are being used for certain watches that exist. And you see it just with watches, right? So many vintage reissues. Now, this is not a vintage reissue. This is truly a new watch. It's just kind of modeled after this Rolex Explorer watch in question, the 1655. And I think it's okay. I don't mind that component behind this, because we have to consider that this is a $4,000 watch, whereas, start talking about the vintage Rolex, we're looking at, $30,000 today, roughly, in terms of retail price on a decent condition one of these watches, or an equivalent Explorer, $10,000 north at this juncture, not this reference to Steve McQueen, but others. So I get it. It's a much more approachable option. So we can't really compare the two totally and say, hey, which one is better? But also, this is truly a rugged, durable, modern sports watch from a reputable brand at this point that does share that history and heritage with Rolex. So, there are some people on the internet currently that are saying, especially on my Instagram, The Real John P, where, some people have sent me some messages saying, oh, do you think this is a Rolex ripoff? Well, I think it's fair game considering how closely connected the companies are. And if this was any other brand, right, not connected to Rolex, let's say it was, Oris, and they came out with this watch, yeah, I think Rolex would be knocking at their door. But the fact that they probably share a lot of the designers, some of the people probably collaborate and work on things together to an extent, and they share that history of using the same parts, the same founder, so on and so forth, so many things, I really can't criticize them for doing that, right? They did it with the Heritage Black Bay GMT with the Pepsi bezel. Of course, they have the Submariner, a model that Tudor had and Rolex had at the same time. Now Tudor has the Black Bay. People want the Submariner. It doesn't exist in Tudor. They have their Black Bay line, and I think this gets us closer to asking for what the Tudor collectors truly want. For the past several years, people have been saying, we want a GMT in the Black Bay 58 case. And this is very close. This is getting you almost there, right? It's not like you can tell exactly the manufacturer, exactly down to every function and specification what you want. But in terms of what's being delivered, I truly do think that Tudor knocked it out of the park on this one. I mean, it is just such a nice and attractive watch. I cannot wait to try this watch out. Now, I haven't been the biggest Tudor fan in recent times. There's just something about them. The cases tend to be a little bit too chunky for my wrist, with the exception of the Black Bay 58 and the variations of it. So I haven't really spent a lot of time wearing them. We get a ton of them in at Delray Watch, and they sell so quickly, and so I know people love and enjoy them, and the quality is there, especially for the price point. But I think this 39mm case size with this functionality, the GMT Master, and it draws from the heritage of their sister brand Rolex, I think it's cool. It ticks so many boxes without ticking too many to be a direct ripoff. And even if it was, let's be honest, it's Tudor Rolex at the end of the day, so they can do that. But I think it does it in a classy and acceptable and sufficient way that's not too overbearing and too blatant of a copy, right? What do you think about this watch? Now, I would love to see and hear this in the comments below. Guys, let's please do not go too hard on this watch, because I do think that this is going to sell so quickly and so many people are going to love and enjoy this watch. It's so fun and quirky, and it allows you to get into a modern Steve McQueen, essentially, that you can truly beat up and not mind, as opposed to a $30,000 watch. What do you think about this? Please leave it in the comments below. Guys, please do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram, TheRealJohnP. Thanks, guys. You've been chatting with John P.